Hey, what's going on, everyone? Good Mike War Commentaries back at you, and it is once again January, and once again the beginning of a brand new year. And as I like to do every year on my channel during this time, during Royal Rumble season, is to review a couple of classic or retro Royal Rumble pay-per-views. So this year is going to be no different. You're going to have a couple of these coming this month prior to the Royal Rumble here in 2021 on the 31st of January. And the first one we're going to do is one that I've been meaning to do for a while. It's a strange one. I've got a lot of things to say about it. And of course, as you can see, it is Royal Rumble 1995. I put a YouTube post up in the community tab a couple of weeks ago asking you guys to throw out suggestions for Royal Rumble reviews this year, and this one came up a lot. And since I have already kind of promised to do it in the past, I felt like I couldn't avoid it this time around. There were a couple of others, or there was at least one other one that got more votes than 95, but 95 was represented pretty hard. I should have done it last year for the 20th anniversary, or 25th anniversary, excuse me. But this one was interesting, and I remember it well. I ordered it on pay-per-view, and I have a lot of memories to share. I even have it on VHS right behind me here. And I remember this well in terms of where the business was, what we were looking at. Hogan had only been in WCW for a number of months around this time, and that WCW was picking up steam. Vince was freaking out. This was a weird Rumble, weird time, just a weird vibe around wrestling around that time because things were really changing. And for me as a fan who was 18 years old at the time of the show, I, as a WWE mark and fangirl, I was a little bit concerned, especially with the weakness of the field of this year's Royal Rumble. But I think for maybe as weak or bad as the Royal Rumble match itself was, it had one of the best finishes and one of the most memorable finishes. So there is a good amount of stuff to talk about on the show, and I know a lot of you really don't care much about the 90s, and some of you care a lot about it. So I'm hoping to at least please some of you, and the next Royal Rumble related video that I do will be one from the mid-2000s, just so you know. But since I've talked about this one a lot in the past during various Q&As, various live streams, and just podcasts in general, this show has come up a number of times, but we've never really talked about it completely in depth. So that's what we're going to do here. Review Royal Rumble, WWF Royal Rumble 1995. Very important that it's WWF, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But like I said, this is not a Patreon stream or anything like that. This is just a review that I wanted to do for Royal Rumble season, and this is a jam-packed month. So if you are not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button, and it would be really, really helpful if you could hit the like button for me. It's completely free to do so. It takes one click of a finger, and it really, really, really helps my channel. So a goal of mine in 2021 is to really get my likes up, because in 2020 they were down. So if you could hit the thumbs up button for me, I really appreciate it. And if you have memories of this show, if you were a wrestling fan during this time, or if you were a wrestling fan after the fact and you've gone back and watched this, or you have any knowledge of this show whatsoever, please feel free to share with me your memories and your comments down below, and I would love to read what you guys thought of the show as it compares to how I felt about it. But you'll be hearing a lot of my opinions as we go through here, because like I said, this was a weird time, and for those of you who have been following me for a long time, know how important the 90s was to me as a wrestling fan, and you also know that Bret Hart was my favorite wrestler growing up. So I was a little bit uneasy at this time because I had just come right off the heels of watching Bret drop the belt to Backlund at Survivor Series, and now he's got the big title match with Diesel, and I was not feeling good. So you'll get my perspective of all of this as it went down. But the Royal Rumble 1995 went down on January 22nd, 1995 in Tampa, Florida at the USF Sundome. And I actually drove past this once when I was in Florida visiting some family. We drove over to Tampa. I think we went to Busch Gardens or something like that. And I remember driving right down the road and just seeing it. It just popped up out of nowhere. And I'm like, holy shit, that's the Sundome. Royal Rumble 95 was there, because I'm such a fucking mark. But this was on the campus of the University of South Florida. And the attendance they have listed is 10,000, which was pretty much the capacity for this place. I looked it up to see what it was called now, because I didn't think it was called the Sundome. It's actually called the Yuengling Center. I completely forgot about Yuengling beer. There was a span there in my 20s where that's all I drank for like 2 years. I think it was like a Pennsylvania beer. We got it a lot down in North Carolina, and I drank the shit out of it. And then all of a sudden just stopped drinking it and haven't even thought of it since. So when I saw that it was now called the Yuengling Center, I got a kick out of that. So very cool. This Royal Rumble was coming at a weird time because, like I said, Hulk Hogan had just made the jump over to WCW the previous summer in 1994, and now they were really starting to compete. They hadn't quite started Nitro yet. Nitro was not in existence, but Hogan was there, and Savage had just made the jump like 2 months before this show as well. They were also in a big transition period because they took the title off of Bret, used Backlund as a way to transition it to Diesel, this brand new star, this brand new babyface they were going to make out of nowhere. And things were rough in WWE land around this time. And it was so funny. You can hear it all throughout the show if you go back and watch this pay-per-view. And I remember during the hype too, during all the TVs, during the Todd Pettengill pay-per-view reports that they would do on Action Zone and Superstars and shit like that, they were really, really pushing WWF, the WWF Royal Rumble. It was never just the Royal Rumble. It was always the WWF, the 1995 WWF Royal Rumble. They said it over and over and over. And Todd, during the pay-per-view reports, when he would urge fans to call their cable company and order the show, it was around this time that they started specifically telling you, make sure you order WWF by name, because now they got a competitor out there, and they probably thought that the person running the cable, bill or something could fuck it up and charge them for the WCW show instead. So they were just like freaking out, and they were really trying to just hammer their brand into your head as a fan. And you would hear this a lot during the Royal Rumble match itself. And even the previous year, I remember during the Bret and Luger match, when the Luger draw, when Howard went through both guys winning, he would go through the whole thing. The winner of the 1994 WWF Royal. It was just over the top in this show. And it was directly because of, WCW now with a lot of those big 80s names, and they were almost on equal footing around this time with the WWF. I mean, WWF was still kind of in the lead, but not by much. And by the time Nitro started, we're talking about a year from now, things would be a lot different. So they were kind of on the decline really around this time. And you would really see that was really, really, really noticeable in the Rumble match itself, which I have a lot of complaints about. I thought it was a really weak field. I thought it was way too predictable. As somebody that was a diehard wrestling fan around this time, I knew it was going to be Shawn Michaels, especially once Diesel beat Backlund in 8 seconds in the Garden. I mean, the writing was on the wall there. So I think that it would have helped if they had a few more contenders in this thing to really make you not sure, because, as we'll talk about later, there weren't a whole lot of other candidates to win in this field. It kind of made it obvious it was going to be Shawn, maybe one or two others, maybe, but realistically, it felt like it was going to be Shawn. So, that was kind of strange. And like I said, the time period that they were in was just odd. And this was also centered around Pamela Anderson coming in, because Pam was on Baywatch and shit, and they had coaxed her into coming in for some reason. And I've never seen any sort of celebrity or any sort of guest of WWE be so disinterested and so completely oblivious and unaware of what the fuck is going on around you. It was ridiculous. And back then, I've talked about this before in various podcasts, around this time, WWE was they had raging mega huge erections for any celebrity, even of the smallest stature. So this was a big show. They had Pamela there, and they had LT in the front row, which we'll get into later. And I remember back at this time, anytime they got any sort of rub from the outside world in entertainment or in media, or they were mentioned on Entertainment Tonight or some news broadcast, or Chet Kopic had them on their show or something like that, they would just milk the shit out of it and play it over and over. Nowadays, you fast forward to 2020, they're beating the celebrities off with a stick because they just have to just pick up the phone and call anybody. And they're usually more than happy to come in and work with WWE. We've seen that over the years. All the famous people and actors and celebrities and big name stars in Hollywood and entertainment who have come in and made appearances in WWE, how it is now compared to how it used to be when Vince McMahon would fucking jizz himself over the smallest little B-rated celebrity he could find that shows interest in working with the WWE. It was hysterical. And I'm not putting down Pam or LT here. I'm just saying in general, their overall attitude, towards celebrities, they were desperate, and they came off as like a desperate girl or a desperate guy, just chasing people around, where WCW, honestly was in a little bit better position around that time because they had the marketable names like Hogan and Savage that had connections, especially Hogan, in Hollywood and other forms of media that allowed them to bring in Mr. T and Shaq and do all the things WWE did in the 80s. WWE was struggling around this time, to really get big name celebrities involved. So this was a really big deal to Vince, but looking back, it was ridiculous. LT did a great job at WrestleMania 11, but Pamela couldn't give a fuck. So, to make it even funnier, the show opens up when you start the pay-per-view. I watched this on the network. I should have pulled up my VHS copy, but the network was closer. So I wasn't sure how much of this was edited, but I distinctly remember this. They showed it earlier on in the day on TV because I was watching all the shows prior to the pay-per-view airing. And Pamela pulls up in her limo and in the parking garage, and you go back and look at this, you'll laugh your ass off. And all of the WWE stars are like waiting for her, but the ones you see up front are like Mabel and Doink, and it's just like this this circus that's just like waiting for her. No wonder she's freaked out and doesn't want anything to do with these guys. It's just like Mo and Mabel and Doink and Dink. Imagine if those are the first 4 people you see. If you go anywhere, I'd be like, I'm going to turn around and leave. But the funniest part about this is when the limo pulls all the way up, she gets out and they're just all gawking at her and being just completely ridiculous and whistling at her and everything. And then she gets literally right out of the door of the limo and goes right into her dressing room, which is located right there. What kind of dress? Where the hell they put her? No wonder she's pissed. They put her in the fucking parking garage. Vince welcomes us. Him and Jerry Lawler are your announcers for this thing. They run through the card, and it's I think we got about 4 matches on the card prior to the Royal Rumble match itself, and we open up with an Intercontinental title match. And I was worried about this one too because I was a big Razor Ramon fan, but I felt like it was going to be Jarrett here, and they set this up on TV. Razor Ramon defending his Intercontinental title against Jeff Jarrett. And when they made their way to the ring, I really miss those 1990s entrances, having Jeff Jarrett come out with the lit up hat and Razor Ramon, you know, with the music and the gold lighting and the gold, and then they do the pyro in the ring. I just miss all that so much. And Razor defending the title, Intercontinental title at Royal Rumble, it was kind of his thing. He did that. He was in a lot of singles matches. I don't think he was ever even in a real Royal Rumble. He wasn't, now that I think about it. Unless when he came back in 02. No, he wouldn't have been that one either. So I don't think Razor's ever been in a Royal Rumble because he came in, first match was in 93. He was a challenger for Bret Hart's world title. And then I think the next 3, he defended the IC title, defended in 94 against IRS, here in 95 against Jeff Jarrett, the following year against Goldust in 96. So he was just, he was always in matches at the Royal Rumble, never in the Royal Rumble. And this was the second of 3 straight Intercontinental title defenses he would have on the show. Vince would go on to reference the previous Monday Night Raw. I remember watching this one too. This was in the beginning of the year, and Bret Hart worked with Jeff Jarrett. It was Bret's first match back since he lost the title, so it was kind of like his warm-up working with Jeff Jarrett. And Vince also brings up the William Shatner appearance because that was the same show that Shatner punched around Jerry the King Lawler. So kind of fun to hear Vince bring up that because I remember that, and I remember as a big Bret Hart fan and not seeing him since Survivor Series, I was interested to see how he looked against Jeff Jarrett, and I was glued to the TV that night, that's for sure. So kind of fun to hear Vince mention that because I remember that. Interesting spot here too in the match, you know, as they're fighting as these 2 guys would, a match you would expect from these 2. But Razor does this move where he hits this like second rope bulldog. It's like in his move set. He does it in mostly every match he's in. But he does this to Jarrett, but for some reason he waits. I've never seen him do it this way before. He waits for Jarrett to turn around and basically hits a bulldog, but it's more like a clothesline, and he takes him down on his back instead of on his face. But it was all still set up and executed the same way, but Jarrett was just reversed. And it looked like he did that on purpose because Jarrett's back was turned. He had a chance to bulldog him, but he waited for him to turn around. It was just an odd spot, knowing that that's a move that Razor always does in just about every match that he's in, every big match that he's in anyway. And for this one to look so different was odd. And I don't even think it was a botch. I think it was actually on purpose. Just something I noticed in the match. A little bit later on, Razor gets tossed over the top rope. I think it was a back body drop onto the floor, and he tweaks his knee as he hits the ground, and he comes up hobbling a little bit. So Jeff Jarrett distracts the referee, which is Timmy White. And as Timmy's busy, Rhodey clips Razor from behind in the knee in the eye away, putting him down. And the referee comes over to count Razor Ramon out for the full 10 count and calls for the bell. Jeff Jarrett wins the match via disqualification. But this was all a well-laid plan to injure Razor Ramon and then goad him into restarting the match, which Jarrett does, which in 95 was not something you see very often. Now it's nothing to come out on a Raw or SmackDown and demand a restart or have a impromptu tag after a commercial like we see every damn week on both shows or something like that. But back in these days, it was still kind of weird just to, you know, there was always the 5 more minutes, you know, matches where it was a draw, ask for 5 more minutes, but a lot of times it wouldn't happen because, you know, you couldn't, or the referee just wouldn't do it or whatever. So here, I remember thinking that it was a little weird that this is an Intercontinental title match in a pay-per-view. You know, this is not something that we've really seen on pay-per-view from WWE up until this point, of them just letting wrestlers make up shit as they go along. I thought it was a little bit weird. So Jarrett just keeps baiting Razor, saying, oh, you're not man enough, you yellow belly, you little shit or whatever, and you don't have the guts to get in here and fight me like a man. You're going to take the cheap way out, and basically just goads him into getting in there. And Tim asks Razor if he wants to go, and Razor says yes, and he's like, okay, and he calls for the bell, and the match restarts. And that's when Razor starts kicking Jeff's ass, and he actually gets him up in Razor's edge position, but his injured knee buckles on him and gives out. He goes down. Jarrett catches him in a quick small package, and the referee counts 3. Brand new Intercontinental Champion Jeff Jarrett picked up a big win there, a big upset against Razor Ramon. I remember being pretty upset because I wasn't a huge fan of Jarrett. Didn't hate him, but wasn't a big fan of him. But I really liked Razor Ramon. And like I said, it was a theme. All 3 of these years, the prior year, they almost switched it. Intercontinental, or IRS was actually announced, I believe, as the new Intercontinental Champion because of some outside interference with Shawn. But there was a match restart there as well, I think. And that's when Razor was able to retain the title. So technically, it feels like he lost the Intercontinental title 3 years in a row at the Royal Rumble because the following year he'd drop it to Goldust with some outside interference from the 1, 2, 3 Kid. So this time the roadie played a big role and in Razor's loss, and he would go on, I think, to face. It's another reason why WrestleMania 11 sucked. They made a rematch, but instead of an Intercontinental title match, it was a handicap match. It was Razor against Rhodey and Jeff Jarrett. And I think Kid came back and was in Razor's corner or whatever. But I'm like, why wasn't this match for the title? This is WrestleMania. Reminds me of WrestleMania 3. You know, after the Harts beat the Bulldogs in such a shitty way, but yet at WrestleMania, it's a non-title match and it's a 6-man. What the fuck are you doing here? So it's kind of the same thing with this. I was always confused by that, and I didn't like it. They just basically did it because they wanted to keep the belt on Jeff, you know, and they didn't want to beat Razor either. So they made it the handicap, but never liked anything about this. I like Razor as Intercontinental Champion, and I just wanted him to stay champion. So anyway, brand new IC champ, Jeff Jarrett. We'd hear from him in a minute. They go to cut to Stephanie Wyand. I remember her from 1995. She was only there about a year, and she's going to interview the new Intercontinental Champion, but he's not there yet. So they then cut to Pamela Anderson's locker room, where she is there with Todd Pettengill, and the entire room is just filled with presents and flowers and all this shit. And Todd is wondering where her gift is, and she's like, oh, I don't know, it's around here somewhere. The Bushwhackers gave her sardines and all these just random ass gifts from these guys trying to win her love, I guess. Absolutely ridiculous. We then go back to Stephanie, who now has Jeff Jarrett with him, and this is one of the most awkward and stupid looking celebrations I've ever seen. I remember guys winning title belts previously and having big celebrations in the locker room when they win the Intercontinental title. I remember when Steamboat, or I remember when Honky won it, and I remember, you know, when the Harts won the tags, and there's been a lot of cool, like, backstage celebrations after a title victory. This is one of the worst I have ever seen. I don't even know what Jeff Jarrett was doing. It was some sort of very weird, hesitant-like enthusiasm. He's not even drinking beer, champagne. He's got a water bottle, but he's not even, like, dumping it over his head or being all exciting. He's just acting weird. It just didn't look right. He didn't look to be that stoked. I mean, he did, but he was just doing a very, very bad job of celebrating. I guess I should put it that way. So Jeff Jarrett, I don't think is very fun at parties based on his celebration here after winning the IC title. So that was pretty funny. The next matchup was another dumb one. IRS versus The Undertaker. Now, The Undertaker had been feuding with various people, and now he's heading over into the $1 Million Corporation, and he'd have a long run with them here for a bit. So in this match, he's taking on IRS. IRS and $1 Million Man have got the Druids on their side, so they've got a few Druids at ringside. They're involved a lot in this match, and this match is also centered a lot around the urn because they would wind up stealing it, and we would see the urn take many forms later on. It was melted down and turned into a chain, and all this crazy shit that they would do in 1995. This was kind of the beginning of it here. So The Undertaker is basically finding himself in a handicap match here against like 4 Druids in IRS. He is able to overcome all of this because, of course, he would. He's facing fucking IRS and winds up getting the victory and beating IRS with a tombstone. We had the Druids coming back in. They attack The Undertaker, get him down. He fights them all off, and that's when King Kong Bundy, one of the newest and most powerful members of the $1 Million Corporation, comes down, and I hated this. I remember when Bundy was brought back in, I was so worried because of what WCW was doing to WWE that they were so desperate to come out and find any former stars from the 80s that they could possibly sign, bring them in, and push them hard. And when Bundy was revealed to be re-signed in 1994, Bret was still champion, and I was worried for Bret. I'm like, tell me they are not going to put the title on King Kong fucking Bundy. But I thought they were. Like, I really, really thought they were. So he came out here to work to face off with The Undertaker instead. There's a big stare down. And that's when IRS nails Paul Bearer and grabs the urn away and repossesses it and runs away while Bundy just mauls The Undertaker, kicks his ass, hits him with splash after splash. And Paul Bearer, you know, has lost his urn, so he doesn't have the ability to raise The Undertaker up anymore and all this silly shit. So, you know, finally in the end, after The Undertaker takes his ass kicking from King Kong Bundy and he leaves, Paul Bearer gets the fans to help The Undertaker get up, and then he hobbles away looking for King Kong Bundy. It's another thing they've done before with The Undertaker. In 1993, he got his ass kicked by Giant Gonzalez, and this was another match that kind of bothered me because, as we'll talk about here in a minute, the Royal Rumble field was very, very weak. Why were these guys not in the Royal Rumble? It was really random how in some years you'd do double duty. If you had a match on the undercard, you'd be in the Royal Rumble as well. And then other years, they wouldn't do it at all. Now, on one hand, I can understand with The Undertaker because The Undertaker wasn't the plan to win it. Shawn Michaels was. So The Undertaker, still wanting to protect that character, I can understand not wanting to have him in the Rumble. Fair enough. If he's not going to win it, I don't want to see The Undertaker tossed out. But IRS could have been in it, and some of the people, the participants in the tag match later on could have definitely been in it. And I thought that was weird. That could have helped beefed up the field a little bit. Not everybody on an undercard match needs to be in it, like in the title matches and stuff, but they could have put at least two, three, or maybe even 5 guys in the Royal Rumble that would have really helped had they allowed the undercard to be in it. So I found that to be a little bit weird, but it was just something that gave The Undertaker something to do with the Royal Rumble and would set up his WrestleMania 11 match with King Kong Bundy, which is arguably, probably along with Giant Gonzalez, the worst Undertaker matches in WrestleMania history, easily, I would say. After that, we go to Todd Pettengill, who's going to be talking to Diesel and Bret Hart, and both of these guys are very grumpy, and I remember this because I watched the Action Zone that morning prior to the Royal Rumble, and both guys were interviewed on the Action Zone, and they were real chill. They were just goofing off, having a good time, trying to outcool each other and show that they're not sweating it and they're laid back and all that stuff. Well, they had a completely different tone here as Todd was interviewing them. Neither guy really wanted to talk. Diesel said, "Get the hell out of my face." Bret was like, "Now is not the time." So Todd kind of came up empty here, and it was a stark contrast in how they were earlier on in the day. So I like that, and I remember that so well because I was biting my nails that day. Bret Hart was coming back and he was getting a title shot. But as a Bret Hart fan in my heart of hearts, I was thinking about it. By that point, I've been a wrestling fan for a long time. I kind of understood shit. And I'm like, nothing here tells me that Bret's going to win this title at the Royal Rumble as much as I want him to. To pass it from Backlund to Diesel to Bret would seem really strange and random as hell. And it feels like if you're going to put the title on Diesel, you're going to go with Diesel for a while. Plus, Shawn Michaels was in the Royal Rumble, and I knew that fucker was going to win it. So I, as a Bret Hart mark, did not see him winning the title here. I knew he wouldn't. My only hope was that he came out of the Royal Rumble not a loser. I just didn't want to see him get jackknifed and pinned. Because Diesel was only a babyface for 2 months. He didn't work any TV matches at all prior to or after Survivor Series, I don't think. I don't ever remember seeing him on TV. Prior, other than interviews and a couple of promos and stuff like that. He was never in a match. I know he worked the live events, but I don't think he wrestled a match on TV after winning the title. So it was kind of his first reveal to the fans as who he is as a babyface, and he came out debuting brand new music. Really cool kind of entrance, how the glass kind of shattered with the truck driving through it. I liked it. I like kind of the harmonica entrance of Diesel. I liked it so much better than just the truck honking the whole time. That was so dumb to me. I'm like, that's not music. That's just a loud, annoying fucking noise. So the fact that he actually had music, I really like it. I dug it, thought it was cool, and it gave me all the more reason to not think that Bret Hart was going to be coming out of this match with the championship. And they had already wrestled at King of the Ring the previous year, another match that had me a little bit nervous because Diesel nearly beat him back then and became a double champion just a few months prior to this. So this is the big rematch here. And I was a little bit worried. I felt like WWE and Vince was going with Diesel, and if they were going to put the belt back on Bret, they just never would have taken it off of him to begin with. So it felt like it wasn't going to be Bret's night. But I was just hoping that in the end, Bret would find his way back to the title in 1995. And it would be a tough road for me as a Bret Hart fan. I went through a few months of hell there before finally WWE came to their senses and Gorilla Monsoon made the glorious announcement on Raw that Bret Hart would be getting a title shot at the Survivor Series. But prior to that, it was rough. But like I said, here we are, big title match, Diesel defending the title against Bret Hart. Bret comes out first. Diesel's out next with his brand new music. His hair's a little bit longer. He's changed up just a little bit since we saw him last at Survivor Series. And he looked good. I like Kevin Nash. I've always been a huge Kevin Nash fan. He comes to the ring, immediately goes over and says hello to Lawrence Taylor, who's sitting at ringside. Now, WWE was telling us that Lawrence was Diesel's personal guest to the Royal Rumble. He's got a couple of his agents there with him, and they're in the front row. So Diesel comes over to say hello, gives him a big hug, gets in the ring, and I think this is the first time also that we experienced the Diesel Pyro. I had not seen this before. I don't think he had it as a heel with Shawn. I can't. Or maybe he did. He might have, but this was a pretty elaborate pyro display here for the new WWE champion. Very cool. And here we go. Kind of a little handshake in the middle of the ring. Bell rings, and we're underway here. Bret and Diesel. And just like their 1994 match, it was a lot of Diesel early. You know, he's got that power advantage over Bret, so it was kind of like the Diesel power display for a while, tossing Bret around, Bret trying to figure out a way to get to Diesel, to cut him down a little bit. Bret really focusing on the legs, of course, just like he did in 94 as well, and goes after the leg as hard as he possibly can. And they had talked about this on the previous week's Raw when Bret had the match with Jeff Jarrett. They were alluding to this as well on TV, based on how Bret lost the title at Survivor Series with Owen and getting fucked over and using his mother and the whole deal, and how just sadistic that whole plan was to get the belt off of him, that maybe he was a changed man. Maybe he was going to come back with a little bit more aggressive of an attitude. Maybe he was going to come back and be a little bit heelish. They alluded to this a little bit on TV and in the match with Jeff Jarrett on Raw. So here we come in this match with Diesel now. And as we would see a lot of this, because the match at Survivor Series a few months later would be no holds barred, I think, or a no disqualification or whatever the fuck it was, but you could do whatever you wanted. Here, this was a typical regular match. So right away, Bret pulling some shit was kind of weird for 1995 Bret. Or late 94 Bret. He gets Diesel down early, grabs his legs, wraps him around the ring post, takes off some of his pink wrist tape, and ties Diesel's legs together so he can't get up. And then he gets back in the ring and starts stomping Diesel. So Vince is like, is he a changed man? And I remember being a little bit surprised by that. I'm like, wow, Bret is being a little bit more aggressive. I didn't exactly hate that either, because, you know, that might have been a mean streak that Bret needed to have. That might have been something that was missing from him. So as a Bret Hart fan, I kind of liked the new attitude, you know, as long as he didn't go too far, I suppose. He wouldn't go full-blown heel for 2 more years, but, you know, doing stuff like that was interesting based on who Bret was as a babyface. You know, he's in the 80s, he was perfectly used to doing stuff like that, but Bret as a babyface during his IC and world title runs, this was rare. This is very strange of him to do. I mean, hell, when you know, when he pinned the 1-2-3 Kid with his foot on the ropes, he insisted that the referee restart the match. You know, Bret was a goody two-shoes in 94. Now he's starting to fuck some shit up, and I liked it. Bret's back on the attack here after a while. He hits Diesel with the classic backbreaker, the second rope elbow. Looks like he's starting to set up for the sharpshooter. Lawler is hilarious during this thing because he's really back and forth on who he thinks is going to win. Bret Hart, Diesel, Bret Hart, Diesel. He can't make his mind up. That was pretty funny. Diesel gets clotheslined over the top rope and kind of lands on, gets up pretty quickly or lands on his feet. Bret then dives over the top rope to do a dive onto Diesel, but Diesel catches him and then rams his back right into the ring post, and Bret goes down like a ton of bricks. Diesel picks Bret up, throws him back in the ring, hits him with the jackknife, and that's going to be it. He goes to cover Bret Hart, and Shawn Michaels extremely late on his cue gets in there at the very last minute to break up the 3 count and attack Diesel and start beating the hell out of Diesel and really working over his leg good. So the referee calls for the bell, and you think that's going to be it. I remember watching this being like, okay, I guess I can live with a DQ, but I'm surprised it ended that quickly. Little did I know they were about to do what they were about to do. So Shawn gets in there, starts beating the hell out of Diesel's leg. Even Lawler is asking the question if Bret and Shawn are in cahoots, which was pretty funny when you think about it. And Earl decides that the match isn't going to end that way, and the match is going to restart. So Howard announces the match must continue. And after that, Diesel's now wounded because Shawn came in there and worked the hell out of his leg. So Bret really, really, really goes after the leg and really goes after the knee hard. He even uses a chair on Diesel. And again, he would do a similar spot at the Survivor Series in November, but this was still pretty different for Bret around this time, and it really played into him being a changed man. He gets Diesel, I think he gets him on the post and uses the chair on his leg on the post. And Earl lets that shit fucking slide. I almost laughed my ass off. I'm like, why is he not DQ'd after this? And there was a few boos in the crowd. I mean, I appreciate Earl wanting there to be a real winner here, but this isn't a no DQ match. The match should have been over right there. I found that to be funny. He then gets Diesel back in the ring, locks the sharpshooter on Diesel, but before Diesel can submit, Owen Hart then shows up and breaks up the submission and attacks Bret Hart and starts beating the shit out of Bret Hart. He goes right over and starts removing the turnbuckle pad from the corner, and they have to get Owen out of there, and the officials come out there and get Owen out of there. So you had Shawn interrupting Diesel first, and then Owen interrupting Bret after. And so Earl decides the match is going to continue again. So he continues it one more time, and this time Bret is the one that was worked over by Owen. So Diesel goes for a cover, and Bret's able to kick out. And then Bret winds up ramming Diesel into the exposed turnbuckle. So now Diesel's on the fucking ropes. He survives this and gets Bret Hart kind of tied up in the ropes at one point. He's like kind of tied up in the middle in the top rope and he can't go anywhere. So Diesel hops out of the ring and goes and grabs one of his own chairs, one of the beautiful Royal Rumble 1995 chairs. I would love to own one of those. And he starts walking over to Bret, and then Earl's like, no, don't do it. And he thinks better of it and throws it down. While Earl and Diesel are talking together, Bret goes down and starts kind of feigning a knee injury or an injured leg or whatever. And he's clearly playing possum here. Vince and Lawler even know that he's playing possum. And Diesel gets in the ring to find out that he was, in fact, playing possum, and Bret rolls him up in a small package. But luckily, Diesel kicks out. He would not be so lucky later on at the Survivor Series. Shortly after that, Earl takes a bump finally, and then the floodgates open. As soon as the referee takes that bump, everybody comes out. Complete chaos. You have Shawn coming back out there, Owen coming back out there, who we've already seen. You also see Jeff Jarrett and the Roadie come out there for some reason. I don't know why. Bob Backlund is out there as well. And all of these guys, all 5 or 6 of them, are just beating the hell out of both baby faces in the ring who just had a grueling match against each other. Diesel and Bret getting worked over good by all those guys. The officials also swarm the ring. They're trying to pull everybody apart. They get them apart for a while, but then the heels re-attack again, and Bob Backlund winds up getting Bret Hart in a cross-face chicken wing, and Bret's fighting. Everybody swarms in the ring again and attacks Diesel. He's able to fight everybody off, leaving just Backlund and Bret in there, and Diesel walks over and stomps Backlund's head, saving Bret Hart, and everybody finally powders out, leaving Bret Hart and Diesel in the ring by themselves. Howard Finkel makes the announcement to the audience that due to the referee's inability to maintain control in the match, that he's ruled this match a draw. So it's basically the second time we had no winner declared with these guys, which would really be used heavily as a reason to make that match in the Survivor Series a no disqualification match. So this was a pretty good one between these guys. All 3 of the matches they had with each other, I got to say, were good. The King of the Ring 94 match, if you've never seen it, it's pretty good. It's another match that you wonder, man, Diesel had that match won. He had the jackknife on Bret, but then Jim Neidhart came in and broke it up, and that whole issue was off and running there, and Neidhart would turn heel later on. And here it was kind of the same thing. He had Bret and the jackknife again, and we had interference or whatever, so that's twice in a row now, and that would lead to the Survivor Series match in 95, which was one of my favorite matches of all time. So if you've never seen that one later on either in November, go check it out. Faux show. And after that, both guys are kind of in the ring recovering. The fans are kind of encouraging them to get to their feet. Diesel gets up first. He walks over and actually helps Bret Hart up. After everything Bret Hart did to him in this match, using the chair and all that shit, Diesel actually helps him up. And Bret he's selling the shoulder a little bit, and he walks away, and finally both guys are separated, and Bret kind of just looks around and shakes his head and walks over and shakes Diesel's hand. They hug. The crowd really popped for that. I enjoyed that as a fan. It was really cool, too. The camera panned over to see Lawrence Taylor just clapping and nodding his head. You know, I like to see that. I like to see when the celebrities are entertained. As we would see later on with Pamela Anderson, she gave less than a shit about anything going on. Where LT seemed to be engaged. He really enjoyed that match, and he liked kind of the ending there, the show of respect. I thought that was great. And as a big Bret Hart fan, I was willing to give Diesel a chance, you know, because I liked Diesel. I liked his gimmick. I thought him getting the title when he did was super surprising. I thought it came out of nowhere. It was not on my radar. It was not on my bingo card. It was nothing that I saw coming at all. I was shocked enough when Backlund beat Bret for the title. I'm like, what the hell are they doing? Is it because Hogan's champion there? They want the champion before Hogan back champion in WWE. Why are they doing this? Only to find out it was only for like 2 or 3 days, and then he would lose the title to Diesel in the Garden, and they were going to go in a different direction with a new star. So because of my loyalty to WWE over WCW in the war that really wasn't even started yet, I was willing to give Diesel a chance. And to this day, Kevin Nash has always remained one of my favorite people and wrestlers. He's awesome. I always liked his work. I always thought he was a funny dude, and you know, he's relatively smart for the most part. I know he wasn't the greatest. He won't go down as the greatest booker in history, but he has a level of understanding that, you know, a lot of wrestlers don't have, and I like that about him. So, you know, Diesel was champion at a weird time, kind of the way McIntyre is a champion now. But I was very happy when Survivor Series would roll around, and the story would be very, very different. Then the belt would be back, in my mind, around the waist of who it should always be around, Bret Hart, right? Anyway, so that match was out of the way now. That was very long. Think it went about 30 minutes almost. So that was a long, grueling ordeal. We then, they cut back and they show a replay of Pamela Anderson arriving earlier on, like I talked about, in the limo in the garage or whatever. And Jerry Lawler has his magistrator. It's kind of like how Heenan had the brain scan, and he would draw on it. And he basically took a still shot of Pamela arriving and then drew his face around everything, giving her a kiss. So he drew himself, sexually assaulting Pamela Anderson, which is the most Jerry Lawler thing you can do. And after that, we had the finals of the Tag Team Championship Tournament. Now, of course, the tag team titles were forfeited at Survivor Series when Shawn Michaels and Diesel, the current tag team champions, imploded. Diesel then went on to beat Bob Backlund a couple days later and become champ. And due to Diesel and Shawn's inability to coexist as a team, they stripped him of the titles, and they did a tag team tournament that took place exclusively on Superstars, the syndicated show over the next couple of weeks that would culminate at the Royal Rumble. Really weird teams in this too. Bushwhackers, Heavenly Bodies, Well Done, Head Shrinkers, not even Samu and Fatu. This was Fatu and Sione. Barbarian had been brought in to replace Samu. So it was a super fucking weak division. And the Smoking Guns, one of them was hurt, so they weren't in the tournament. They would both be in the Royal Rumble, but they weren't healthy, I guess, when the tournament started. So they weren't even able to be in this, and they were probably WWE's strongest team at the time. But they would face the winners of this match we're about to talk about the very next night on Raw and win the titles. So the Smoking Guns would be champs one night after this, and we were going to be crowning one night only champs here in a tag team tournament final, pitting Bam Bam Bigelow and Tatanka, members of the $1 Million Corporation, against the random tag team of 1-2-3 Kid and Bob Sparkplug Holly. And about a year before, 1-2-3 Kid was tag team champions with Marty Jannetty, and now he's got another random tag team partner in Bob Holly. They were huge underdogs in this to Bam Bam and Tatanka, and that kind of had the writing on the wall for me too. I kind of felt like they were going to win, like the baby faces were going to win. Even on TV, I think it was Tatanka had beaten the 1-2-3 Kid like earlier on in the day on Superstars or something. So it felt like it was going to be the baby faces. That's who I felt was going to win here, even though they were overmatched. And I turned out to be right. Match was okay. Bam Bam took a beating in this thing. And about halfway through the match, Kid gets a hot tag, and he comes in. And if you watch the spot back, it's really interesting and confusing why Bam Bam even got hurt here. But Kid comes in, catches Bam Bam with a spinning heel kick, but Bam Bam got his protection up well. He had his hands right in front of his face. 1-2-3 Kid caught all of Bam Bam's arms and none of his face. So his own hand or his own fingernail or something must have gone into his eye and cut his eye or blackened his eye. And he had blood around his eye and blood on his lip. So I think that kick did it because he came up really struggling after that. But when you watch it, I don't know how it did, but Bam Bam took a hard shot to the face, and he was feeling the effects of that throughout the whole match. The finish saw Bam Bam going for a moonsault, I believe, on Holly. And Tatanka goes to hit the ropes when Bam Bam is on the top rope, and he leans up against him. Bam Bam crotches himself and falls backwards, knocking himself out. And he was just unconscious in the ring, and he was the legal man. And Kid just crawls over. Bam Bam is lifeless and covers him. 1-2-3, and 1-2-3 Kid and Bob Holly are your new WWF Tag Team Champions. This whole thing was set up really to make the match for WrestleMania, or at least plant the seeds for that, with Bam Bam and Lawrence Taylor. So after the Kid and Bob Holly get their win and celebrate and go away, Bam Bam is getting out of the ring. The fans are giving him shit. He's jaw-jacking with the fans. He's walking around the ring very upset. And you could tell this is very weird. I remember watching it at the time. I'm like, he's going to come face-to-face with LT. I wasn't realizing they were setting up for a WrestleMania match, but I knew that as he was walking around, I'm like, why would they do this? When do people do this? So the fact that he's walking around, I'm like, oh, he's going to confront somebody. So he starts going around the ring, oh, fuck you, shut up, or whatever, yelling at the fans, and he finally gets over to LT. Lawrence Taylor stands up. He's trying to be nice. He tries to shake hands with him. Bam Bam's having none of it, and then he shoves Lawrence Taylor really hard. He goes flying. His two agents there are freaking out, and he dives to get at Bam Bam, but they hold him back. His glasses are falling off, and LT did a great job selling this. I mean, he looked really good. He looked pissed off, and like he really wanted to get at Bam Bam. And I got to hand it to Vince, too. Vince was really good. I mean, this was his company. He wanted to get this over the way he wanted to get it over. And he did a pretty good job here because he played the role of, I'm saying on TV, I'm the announcer, but the fans who know that I'm the owner. So it's important that I'm very quiet here and that I act a certain way and I'm not my over-the-top Vince McMahon character. And he kind of got really quiet after that. And as soon as, they do the pull apart and stuff, they cut to a video package highlighting last year's Royal Rumble, showing the tie between Bret Hart and Lex Luger, and showed a couple of comments from participants of this year's show. I think Shawn and Luger were the two main ones they showed in that little video package. When they come back from video package, they go right to the commentary table where Vince, in a very, very subdued and very brief apology, he just says, "We want to apologize to Lawrence Taylor for that incident." And he was very serious. And I remember the next night on Raw, pretty sure it was the next night, Vince called him by his real name. He goes, the WWF has suspended Scott Bam Bam Bigelow for 30 days or something like that. And they did the angle where they suspended him for what he did. And they tried to be very, very serious about it. And that's when it led to LT's agents coming on Raw, and then they start setting up and they do the promo thing. And then finally Bam Bam goads LT into the match. But I thought, Vince was pretty good around this time for kind of selling shit. When Shawn, later on in the year, he would have his little episode and he'd pass out on Raw. I thought it was brilliant the way Vince didn't say anything or go, "Oh my God, what a maneuver." He just took his headset off, got up and got into the ring. That was really well done as they faded to black. That was good. So I thought he did a pretty good job of letting us know he was the owner, even though or letting the fans who knew he was the owner that he's on it. Don't worry about it, type of thing. So that was kind of well done, I suppose. And that's where all that kicked off, Bam Bam and LT. So if you've never seen that little confrontation, check it out. And I got to say, for a guy who's never wrestled before, he did not deliver a very bad match at WrestleMania 11. Lawrence Taylor did a great job, and Bam Bam deserves a lot of credit. He carried that fucker through the whole thing, but it was good. It was real good. Or better, I should say it's better than it should have been. Way better than it should have been is how I should phrase that. But anyway, that leaves us with the Royal Rumble match itself. 30 men, and like I said earlier, when I was talking about this match and talking about the weakness of this year's field, it was really fucking weak, man. And there was just no big stars, no good stars in the company around this time. And the WWE knew that. Because what they did here, it's so funny how they try to spin shit in their direction. They knew their talent roster sucked around this time. So what they decided to do is make it I think they were calling it the fastest paced Royal Rumble in history, the most exciting Royal Rumble in history. They tried to change it up to where instead of every 2 minutes, every 1 minute. And I think in some other years they've done a minute and a half or something, but this year was 1 minute, and they tried to play it off like they were doing this to make it exciting when they were really doing it to not make it boring, because nobody wanted to wait for Timothy Well to come out and then wait 2 minutes later for Mantar to come out and then wait 2 minutes later for Duke the Dumpster Droese to come out. This shit would take forever and it would be boring as hell. So in order to kind of keep this shit moving here, since the Royal Rumble had at least 10 names, 10 to 15 names that nobody gave a rat's ass about at all. So they needed to keep it moving here. And I thought that was funny that they did this in 1 minute intervals, but it made the match a lot easier to watch and it went by super quick. But like I said, they could have put the Undertaker in this. They could have put IRS, Tatanka, Bam Bam, 1, 2, 3, Bob Holly, the Roadie could have been in this if they wanted. They had some options there. So it's match time now, and we had the Fink introducing Pamela Anderson to everybody. So poor Pam had to come out here and sit through this whole grueling 38-minute match. They bring her out. I think it's funny that Gerald Briscoe and Pat Patterson are escorting her to the ring, along with Renee Goulet and somebody else. They get her to ringside. She doesn't even know where the fuck to go. She's like, "Where do I go?" And they go sit her down by the timekeeper's area. So she's got to sit there and watch this. That was pretty funny. And then we go into the match here, and they introduce number one, who turns out to be Shawn Michaels. And Shawn had kind of alluded to this in his pre-match promo. They kind of gave this away that he was going to be number one. And he came out supremely confident. And it was weird, too. They weren't selling it the same way that they were selling Ric Flair coming in at number 3 or whatever he did in 1992 and going all the way, and Bobby Heenan flipping out. And Gorilla Monsoon said, "You can kiss that championship goodbye, because there ain't no fucking way he's going to win this coming in at number 3. So I think they wanted to have Shawn come out, to have one of their own guys set this new record and be the only guy to come in first and win it all and shit like that. So, him coming in first, I thought was, kind of a good idea, but it was just the way that it was sold. It was a little bit weird. The British Bulldog comes out at number 2, which I liked that. I really liked the Shawn Bulldog arc that went through the whole Royal Rumble. It was one of the only positive parts of this Royal Rumble because, like I said, it was loaded with nobodies. Get a Load, who came in at number 3, Eli Blue. Now, around this time, I didn't know who they were. I don't know how I missed them. I know they worked, in Smoky Mountain, and they worked, various places. And I read magazines religiously, and somehow never came across these guys. So when he first came out there, I was like, who the fuck is that? You know who I thought it was? I thought it was John Nord. I thought it was the Berserker. And I was like, that didn't look like Nord at all. He's smaller or whatever. And then I hear Vince refer to them being two of them, and there's another one that's going to be in there later. It was like their first time on WWF TV, and I was one of the people that was like, who the hell is that? And I prided myself on knowing these guys. You know, I knew who Isaac Yankem was. I knew who Unabomb was, and some of these guys that came into the company prior, you know, to being there. These guys I'd never seen before. My first look at the Harris twins was here. So he came out at number 3, and myself and nobody in attendance knew who the fuck he was. And that was a big problem in this Royal Rumble. Get a load of this next few participants coming in. We had Duke the Dumpster Drosy coming in at number 4, which he got a huge ovation, you can imagine. We had the Gigolo, Jimmy Del Rey, coming in at number 3. We had Sione, formerly the Barbarian. He's a badass, but in terms of where he was in 95 on the WWF roster, he was nothing. He came in at number 6. Dr. Tom Pritchard, the other heavenly body to go along with the Gigolo, came out at number 7. Doink with Dink came out at number 8. And Quang, who would 6 months later become Sabio Vega, was out at number 9. So you had Shawn, Davey, and a whole bunch of fucking jobbers in that ring for the beginning part of the Royal Rumble. Number 10, one of the handful of random-ass names they had in this was Rick Martel. Now, Rick Martel had set some records in Royal Rumbles previously, and he was a big part of them in the early 90s, but he had not been in the company in a while. I think he was, well, I guess he was there in like late 93 with the IC title match with Razor, but he wasn't really used that much in 94. I don't recall if he was in the Rumble in 94 or not. But he wasn't on TV. He wasn't a regular. He wasn't used in storylines or anything like that. He was invisible. So he might have been hurt too. I don't know. But he was in at number 10, and that was great to see him. And he was still in pretty good shape around this time. And I've always been a fan of Ricky Martel. Owen Hart came in at number 11, and you know, this was great with what they did with Owen, but it also kind of sucked because Owen was one of the only real legitimate, I thought, contenders to win it, even though I knew he wasn't. He was at the top of the card at that time. He just came off the heels with his feud with Bret. So along with Shawn, it was Owen Hart, it was Bob Backlund, Lex Luger, and maybe Bundy. They were the only ones that I really thought had a shot at winning this. So for Owen to come in and not even really be used, I thought was a shame, but it was kind of sweet to get to see Bret get some revenge on Owen as Owen is making his entrance. Bret attacks him from behind and just starts beating the shit out of Owen in the entranceway, which was great because Owen played a big role in him not winning the title from Diesel earlier on, just like Owen played a role in him losing the title to Backlund. And of course, Bret, they've been alluding to the fact that he's a changed man and he's more vicious, so he is out for blood. He beats the shit out of Owen in the aisleway, and when the officials are out there finally prying Bret Hart off of Owen, this was so poorly executed and so poorly done. They missed a huge spot here with WWE. I remember when I was watching this on pay-per-view, I didn't know what the fuck was going on because after they pulled Bret off of Owen, Owen starts going into the ring, but then the countdown starts coming. It's time for the next guy to come out. And when the clock hits, it turns out to be Timothy Well, one half of Well Done. But while he's coming out at the same time in the ring, which you don't see because the camera's not on it, you've got the British Bulldog backdropping Owen Hart over the top rope and eliminating him. So the fans react to the backdrop as the camera is focused on Timothy Well making his entrance, and it sounds like Timothy Well got a Road Warrior pop. It is the funniest shit I've ever seen. If you go back and watch it, I remember as clear as day watching it, you know, in my living room, saying the fucking crowd cheered their balls off for Timothy Well, and I could not figure it out. It wasn't until Lawler and Vince finally realized. Vince was probably pissed. They realized that Owen was eliminated while, you know, it wasn't caught on camera. They showed a replay of it, and it was very cool. He gets in the ring, Davey's on the other side. Owen, after getting his ass kicked by Bret, walks in the ring, and Davey just tosses him out, and it got a huge reaction from the fans, but the camera completely missed it, and that was so damn funny. After all these guys are in there, everyone finally gets dumped out again, you know, about halfway through the match. Everybody gets eliminated, leaving only the British Bulldog and Shawn Michaels, the two guys that started it, in there all by themselves. And just like it was when they were by themselves at 1 and 2, the next person out was the other Blue brother. This time it was Jacob Blue, came out at number 14. He was eliminated immediately, allowing Shawn and Bulldog to continue wrestling just one-on-one. Number 15 turned out to be King Kong Bundy. Now, he was another guy that I thought, I didn't want it to happen, but I thought WWE might have him win. I really thought that. I was nervous as shit for this. So Bundy came out next, and that was a little bit scary. But luckily, with what Bundy did with Undertaker earlier on in the night, made you think they were going to go with Bundy and Taker at WrestleMania. But I was still worried that WWE might give this fool a title shot. Because at least at that time, I love Bundy and everything, but just at this time, that he was not what I wanted at all. So he comes out. Mo of Men on a Mission comes out at number 16. He's dumped out immediately. And then the other member of Men on a Mission, Mabel, the other big beefy guy in this match, who I suppose was a favorite to win it, although he wasn't really being pushed as a singles title contender yet. That wouldn't come until later in the year when he turned heel, win the King of the Ring and shit like that. So he was just a big guy. He was a big Andre the Giant sized guy that they were saying was going to be really hard to dump over the top rope. So he gets in the ring, immediately goes face to face with King Kong Bundy. And during all of this, Bushwhacker Butch comes out, I think at number 18, and he gets eliminated immediately, allowing Bundy and Mabel to continue their struggle. And Mabel actually gets Bundy out and eliminates him. So I was so happy to see Bundy gone. And the fact that he was eliminated that quickly, again, in a field that is this weak, I think they should have kept Bundy in there a little bit longer or had Bundy there near the end. But when you have a field that I think is inferior as this, you need to keep all your main people in there as long as possible, or at least during interesting times. And so I was kind of surprised that Bundy got tossed out that quickly. So you got Mabel, Shawn, and Davey are the only three in there. Luger comes out at number 19. He goes apeshit right off the bat and with ease is able to dump Mabel out of the ring. So that, I think, just leaves Luger, Davey, and Shawn in the ring. And how crazy would it be? This was in January of 1995. On September 5th of 1995, or whatever it was, he would be showing up on the first ever Nitro. So just 9 months later, less than 9 months later, he'd be jumping ship in the middle of the night and joining WCW and turning up on their very first Monday night show and really, setting things in motion of a seriously industry-changing time coming up, because after that, it was the Outsiders, and then the rest is history type of thing. So pretty interesting to see Luger here. And you felt like he was on his way out around this time anyway, because they clearly didn't go with him in 1994 and put the world title on him like they were teasing in 93 and 94. And he was kind of in limbo a little bit here. And then he would finally, right after this, it was literally right after the Royal Rumble, he would team up with the British Bulldog, and they would form the Allied Powers. And I've talked about this before. I'm actually a fan of the Allied Powers. I'm one of the few people that speaks highly of them. I thought that they were a really good team. I thought it was a good utilization of both guys, because neither guy were really in the title picture around that time. Davey would have been cool to see him challenge for the IC and stuff, but, putting them together during a time when your tag team division was weak as shit, I just thought it was a really perfect pairing, and they should be given the titles immediately. They should be champions. And they were a pretty good team. They really did a good job, I think, of melding their theme musics together. They had a really good theme when they put Luger's with Davey Boys. They got some matching white jackets. They were a little bit reminiscent of a Strike Force or a Can-Am Connection. And they were two powerhouses, two, big stars, former world champion and Lex and former IC champion and Bulldog. They were no joke. So I thought that they would be considering how weak the division was, they would be champs and be champs for a long time, but it never really even worked out for them. They didn't get a title shot until later on in the summer, and they didn't even win that. And then a month later, it was SummerSlam, Bulldog was turning heel, and Lex was in Atlanta. So we would get another injection here of some jobbers. Get a load of this. We got Mantar coming out at number 20. Aldo Montoya, the Portuguese jockstrap wearing man of war, out at 21. Henry O. Godwin out at 22, Billy and Bart in at 23 and 24. So it was weird why they did this a lot in Royal Rumbles, a lot of times, over and over and over and over again. The tag teams always come out one after the other. Like, why does it have to be like that? Think about how many times that's happened in history. I bet you even in recent history, New Day guys have come out like one after the other before. It was a common thing here. Just kind of made me laugh. Bob Backlund comes in at number 25. He was another guy that I think was on the short list for me as a fan as a potential winner here, even though I knew he wasn't going to win. He was just champion, 8 weeks prior to this, so I guess it was possible that he could win. But he was never really going to get the chance, just like Owen Hart, because as he comes down to the ring, Bret Hart shows back up again and beats the shit out of Bob Backlund. I love seeing this unhinged Bret Hart. It's kind of fun. It reminded me of WrestleMania 13 a couple years later. He would come out and get all involved in that Sid and Undertaker match just because he couldn't help himself. And here, Bret is out for blood. He's out for revenge, beating the piss out of Bob Backlund. And it was really funny here to see Danny Davis trying to pull Bret Hart off of Bob Backlund. These guys were bros 8 years prior to this, when Danny Davis was the evil referee and helped the Harts win the titles, and he was a part of the Hart Foundation for a while. And now they act like they don't even know each other. I thought that was pretty funny. And they get Bret off of Backlund, just like they did with Owen, and Backlund stumbles his goofy ass in the ring, and he's eliminated immediately by Lex Luger, which was hilarious. So the same thing happened to Owen and Backlund. Bret got his revenge on them, and neither one of those guys were going to have a chance to win the Royal Rumble. We get the final batch of guys coming out here. Some interesting names. Stephen Dunn came out at number 26. By the way, both members of Well Done, I believe, are passed away. Stephen Dunn and Timothy Well. Dick Murdoch, out of nowhere, is here at number 27. Now, they had advertised Dickie Murdoch on TV, and I remember, Dick Murdoch, he had a run with Adonis as a tag champs, but you talked about it, just the most random-ass name that very few fans in 1995 are going to really know or mark out for. That was a really random person to bring in, even though it was cool to see Dick Murdoch in the mid-90s in a WWE match. Why wasn't it Tatanka or something? It's just weird. Just a random guy to bring in and pay for no reason. Waste of money. And random as hell. Adam Bomb would come out at 28. Fatu, the Head Shrinkers, the father of the Usos, would come out at 29. And Crush would be out at number 30 as the final guy. Now, Crush wasn't around either. I don't recall seeing Crush much past the middle part of 1994. He did the match with Savage at WrestleMania, and he was just kind of gone. I don't remember him at Survivor Series or anything like that. So he randomly turned back up here at number 30, and it was kind of cool to see Chronic in the ring together. They would form that team about 5 or 6 years later in WCW, so to see the two Bryans in there at the same time was kind of cool, knowing what where the history would take them in their careers. Finally, everybody gets eliminated except for 4 guys. The final 4 is down to Lex Luger, Crush, Davey Boy Smith, and Shawn Michaels. So this is a pretty decent final 4. In my mind, I was ruling out Crush right away, but I was still thinking, made in the USA, Lex Luger, that Vince wouldn't shut the fuck up about all the time, still might have a chance here to win this match, and I really hoped he didn't. I wanted Shawn to win way more than I wanted Luger to win. Luger does get eliminated, and the crowd kind of gasps a little bit because I think a lot of them were potentially expecting him to win. Vince even, kind of expresses remorse over Luger being eliminated. And then Crush gets eliminated, clotheslined over the top rope, I believe, by Davey, leaving, which I think was one of the coolest parts of the match, leaving the same first 2 guys that started in there at the end. They had 3 separate occasions during this match, which I thought was cool, where it was just the 2 of them. And that was one part of this that I think WWE did well. I think there was a couple of things they did here in the structuring of this Royal Rumble that really wasn't very smart, but this is one of the things that was, to have these 2 guys start and then middle of the match, get everybody out, be by yourselves again, and the end of the match, everybody's out, you're by yourselves again. I thought that was kind of cool, and that was one of the few times in the entire night that the fans really marked out. Because, once it was down to the 2 of them, they started getting to their feet. They started stomping their feet. There was a rumbling in the arena there. Both guys were looking around, and they start to fight. And Bulldog basically had the match won twice. He gets Shawn up in the corner and does the thing where he kicks him, and Shawn does the big bumps in the corner, but he finds himself landing back inside the ring. Davey then press slams Shawn up, crotches him on the top rope, and shakes it, but shakes him back into the ring. And that puts Shawn on the ropes on the far side of the ring. Here comes Davey bouncing off the ropes, hits Shawn with a clothesline. He goes over the top rope, but he's still hanging onto the top rope. Camera focuses on Davey. He starts celebrating. His music starts playing. And I knew watching this, even though they played the music and they tried to fake you out, I'm like, Shawn is hanging on that rope. What do they think? We're fucking stupid? Now, they hadn't really talked about the 1 foot thing yet. This was the first time they really mentioned the 1 foot thing before. I think they might have done it in 94, but they really hadn't made it a big deal. It was just throw the guy over the top rope, you win. They didn't harp on the 1 foot thing very often, but you still knew, even with Davey's music playing, I could see Shawn hanging on there. So then Davey climbs to the second rope to celebrate with the fans, and I could hear it happening. Like, you hear the fans kind of making noise. I'm like, Shawn's coming, and he comes up from behind, nails Davey Boy Smith off the second rope. He spills out to the outside, and Shawn Michaels is declared the winner of the Royal Rumble. And 18-year-old me could see this because I love Davey, but that wouldn't have made any sense for WrestleMania. Davey Boy Smith getting the title shot against Diesel, babyface match, about as random as you can possibly make it. it just didn't fit. So if they're announcing Davey as the winner, I'm like, okay, fine. Then somebody else is going to have to win the title and Davey's going to have to face him or something. I just didn't think it was going to happen. So when I saw Shawn hanging on, I'm like, yeah, he's going to come out of that. And he did, knocks Davey Boy off. And then they reveal that, or Howard actually reveals to the audience that Shawn only had 1 foot touching the ground. And Shawn, it's such a brilliant display showing how fucking athletic he is, the way he just dangles there. And they go to the replay. Vince says, we're going to go to the replay. They had several different camera angles here where Shawn is just dangling his feet. Now 1 foot hits, and that second foot at one point during this, I swear, was a nut hair away from the floor. And he still did not touch. And he kept swinging his feet up, swung them up on the apron only to fall back down, finally gets him back up on the apron as Davey's celebrating and Shawn's able to recover and get in the ring. And the whole time you hear Vince, as the replay is playing, he's going 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot. So they made a big deal about the 1 foot. And Shawn wins the Royal Rumble, enters at number 1 and wins it, makes history. And in the funniest part of the whole thing, this was because the stipulation here for Pamela is whoever wins the Royal Rumble, she must escort that person to the match at WrestleMania. So now she's got to get in the ring and pose with Shawn. And it was so funny. And it's like, it's almost funny and infuriating that Pamela Anderson doesn't give a shit and is not taking this shit seriously. But then again, if you put yourself in her shoes, who would take this seriously? You know what I mean? So Shawn is trying to do his Shawn Michaels pose, and she's standing behind him. And she even asked him, like, where do I stand? And he's like, stand here. And then he does his little muscle pose, and she just kind of she literally rolls her eyes. And she's like, oh, brother, or whatever. And she just wants to get the fuck out of there. And she even like kind of just runs away from him. So she's not interested at all. And WWE, I guess, sort of salvaged this at WrestleMania, because if you remember, Pamela didn't escort Shawn. She was like missing throughout the night. They couldn't find Pamela. Nobody knows where she is. So they changed it up and had Jenny McCarthy, who they randomly brought in at the last minute, to escort Shawn to the ring. And then Diesel came out and revealed that he had Pamela. So Pamela escorted Diesel to the ring instead. And it was kind of the same thing in that match, if you remember. After the match, Diesel celebrating with Jenny and Pamela. They didn't know what the fuck was going on. So to see Pamela here so clueless and so disinterested and so, frankly, just embarrassed to be there was a little bit tough to watch. But it would have been nice if she would have been just a teensy bit more cooperative here. It was all pretty goofy, but, like I said, in terms of what they did with the Rumble with Shawn and Davey and the finish, all that was fantastic. Everything in the middle was a bunch of shit. They could have just done a one-on-one match between Shawn and Davey, and the winner goes to face the champion at WrestleMania, because doing it this way, wasn't very fun. There were very few parts in the match that I was on the edge of my seat, or I was really, chomping at the bit for. I was basically just waiting for it to end. And like I said earlier, the 1 minute intervals did make this easier to watch. If you do decide to go back and watch this match on the WWE Network, it's really not that hard to watch. The minute goes by pretty quick. They come out. It's a pretty rapid fire Royal Rumble, so it's not that bad. But based on the talent they had here and what was going on at the roster, and in the wrestling world around this time, this was not a great time for WWE. I felt like they were struggling a bit. And we were in the middle of that era where everybody had to be an occupation, and they hated that. You had Dean Douglas, the come in later on in the year, and you had trashmen, and you had hog farmers and stuff like that. Why doesn't Duke Droese go to his trash job dressed as a wrestler? I don't understand why they think that if you have another job, you have to show up as I don't know. It was so dumb back then. I'm like, I think for once, Henry Godwin should go to the hog farm dressed as a wrestler. So it was just so weird and annoying, and how cartoony and hokey and stupid everything was. And I remember being an 18-year-old kid, not being that proud to be a wrestling fan. It's not something that I really wanted to shout from the rooftops, because, you had Doink and Dink and Mabel and shit going on here. It's not really something that, I wanted to advertise to potential females that I might want to get naked with and stuff. You know what I mean? It wasn't that cool. It wasn't until a couple of years later where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a wrestling fan, motherfucker. But around this time, it was tough, kind of like it is now. If it weren't for this YouTube channel, I'm not sure if I would sit through this 3 hours of bullshit on Raw every week. I seriously doubt that I would. So different time back then, but still I found what I could to be entertained. I was still buying the pay-per-views. I was still very invested in some of the characters there, like Bret. Like I said, I wanted to give Diesel a chance. I was a big Razor Ramon fan, big Undertaker fan, and I liked a lot of what they were doing. But in general, times were hard, I think, around this time in WWE. And especially, like I said, with the loss of Savage, that was really significant to me as a fan. That would really bum me out. It haunted me for months, years even. I just could not believe that he left. And he was one person that I never thought would. And I don't really even think I truly, really got over that. And this was only a couple of months after, Savage was gone, and it was still kind of all new to me. And it felt like WWE they were different looking. They didn't resemble what they did 2 years prior. It was a very different looking company. So I always struggled with that around this time, but I've been meaning to do a review on the show for a long time. So like I said, let me know what you thought of this show. Am I being too hard on it? Do some of you enjoy the show more than I did? And if you haven't seen the show, go take a look at it. That Bret and Diesel match is definitely worth watching. Their entire trio of matches is. If you've never seen Bret and Diesel matches from 94 and 95, check them out. King of the Ring 94 match was good. This match was good. And the match at Survivor Series in 95 was the best of all of them. So they're worth watching here. It wasn't a completely wasted or worthless Royal Rumble by any means, but it was just a Royal Rumble that came at a very strange time and a weakened time in the company. But they did what they could with it. They had a good finish. They made an exciting finish, and they made history with Shawn. That at least is something. And they set themselves up for a very star-studded WrestleMania 11 with Pamela and LT and all that shit. So strange times indeed. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for hanging out and sitting through this review. We have another Royal Rumble related video coming up later this month, along with 2 other reviews, including a SmackDown review from 2003 and a Raw draft review from 2004. So keep a lookout for those in the month of January. You guys take care. Appreciate you listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.